So Ian, welcome to the Market Mentors podcast.
Thank you for having me. Excited for the conversation.
Absolute pleasure. So before we get stuck into this one, I'd love to know what your relationship is with B2B marketing.
Yeah, it's a funny one because I actually started my kind of career back in the days in actually B2C. So my kind of foundational experience and kind of career was all around B2C and actually in kind of bigger brands. So I worked for one of the Daily Mail groups. I also worked for Paddy Power, so quite a famous kind of B2C and creative marketing function. So my kind of experience with the B2B space has only really been in the last kind of 10 years, in between the kind of B2C and the more recent B2B. I kind of worked in a bit more of those hybrid roles, the kind of marketplaces where you're trying to attract those consumers, but on the other side of the marketplace, you're also trying to kind of market and sell to and bring in businesses as well. So that kind of gave me a flavor of the two. And like I say, I've kind of moved and focused more in the last few years on the B2B space.
It's quite interesting because a lot of marketeers from our side kind of want to make the transition between B2C and B2B and vice versa. Sometimes it can be easier said than done, really. So it's interesting that you've been able to make the move.
Yeah, it was a really kind of conscious choice because I'm a strong believer that any kind of truly well-rounded marketeer has to have that experience both in terms of that kind of B2B or B2C, but also kind of back in my career, I've worked in different verticals, different markets, different segments, different focus on different geos. I think kind of all that brings different levels of experience that you can then apply in different ways. And I think if you have more of a kind of siloed experience, that you can only kind of do that in a very structured thinking. So it kind of limits your ability to kind of reference something that works in B2C and why can't that work in B2B? And for me, I think the fundamentals of marketing still remain the same across B2B and B2C. So I think the kind of division is definitely decreasing as we continue to focus on who is the customer, what is the message, and how do we deliver that message in the most impactful and relevant way.
Well, you see how B2B marketing's evolved. It's kind of using a lot of the sort of techniques that consumer marketers use. You know, you only have to flash up LinkedIn to see that it's a lot more about personal brands and human to human rather than it being sort of fixated on I must talk like a business when I'm doing my marketing. So
I mean, ultimately, people still buy from people, and even in the B2B space, you're still communicating with an individual, with a human being, and therefore there has to be some level of emotion. There has to be some level of exciting that need and that kind of relationship between the brand and the end consumer, whether that consumer is a business or an individual. It's still ultimately there's purchasing decisions that's going to be made by people, and people buy from people, and people buy brands they enjoy and want to be part of. So I think it's a natural transition. I think it's something that I'm excited about, and I think we'll see more of.
Oh, good stuff. So we're here to talk about how AI is changing marketing. And I don't think we can escape the chat, certainly on all the social platforms about AI across all the different industries. And, you know, whenever there's a new technology, we often hear about the negatives. But if we think about the positives, why do you think AI could be good for marketers?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I think I've never seen anything in my career over the last kind of 25 years that has become so prevalent so quickly. And I was talking to somebody the other day and they said the kind of first mention of OpenAI was back in 2017. But in terms of it becoming a real kind of household name or people aware of it, it's only a matter of months still. And I think that with all good new technology, we've gone through the SMS phase, we've gone through the email phase, we've gone through the internet, and now we're really getting into that kind of technology that has a true and defining impact on how we move forward. As you say, with all technologies, there are the skeptics, there are the kind of the scaremongers that will talk about the potential downfalls and the negative side of it. But for me, I look at AI as probably the most revolutionary technology that I've seen come to market beyond the internet. And to be able to see the power and capabilities is exciting. And I think we're only just touching the surface of what we can do from a marketing point of view, let alone how it can impact the overall ability for marketeers, salespeople, or businesses to interact. So yeah, just touching the surface at the moment.
Yeah, good stuff. Good stuff. And what do you think? I mean, if we think on the other side, then, it's easy to sort of get carried away with the technology. But what do marketers need to be wary about? Do you think?
Yeah, I think, as I say, it's about with any new technology, there's always the buzz. There's always the kind of this is going to revolutionize the world. I truly believe AI has a major part in that. My kind of thought process here is that we need to try not to be too reliant on AI. As I say, marketing is still about that human connection. It's all about the creativity. And as I said, and the uniqueness of different brands talking in a different way. If every single marketeer around the world went and typed in, how do I do a marketing campaign for X? We're all going to do the same thing. And therefore, there's going to be no differentiation. There's going to be kind of no brand emotions. There's no going to be no connection between kind of humans and individuals. So, yeah, I'm taking AI as far, and I'm pushing to see what the limitations are. But for me, I just want to make sure that I don't become reliant on it. And what I encourage my teams to do is to think about, how does this aid productivity? How does this become a co-pilot, essentially that support mechanism for you to become more productive, to be able to do things quicker. And ultimately, technology's premise is to streamline, increase efficiencies, and increase quality. And I think if you can find that balance with the kind of natural human creativity, with the kind of speeding up some of the more mundane or some of the more time-consuming tasks, I think it's a match that's going to really work.
And I think with a lot of technology, it's only as good as the person who's using the technology in the first place. It's easy sort of in marketing land to get carried away with, wow, I buy HubSpot and suddenly I've got a stream of inbound leads. We all know it just doesn't work like that, does it? So, so would you say, I mean, we're kind of touching on, whether or not marketing's a sort of art or a science then, we're talking about technology being probably more in the sort of science camp, aren't we? And sort of utilizing that within marketing teams. But then you're kind of touching on things like the storytelling and all that. The human side is certainly, and obviously marketing campaigns as a general thing need to be creative in the first place. But what would you say? I mean, today, right now, would you say it's a little bit more art, or is it more science?
I've always believed it's a perfect combination of both. I think we're obviously being facilitated more on the science side in recent years, and I think that's an easy focus. We talked off air around the ability to track performance, to actually kind of prove revenue, is something that maybe 10, 15 years ago didn't have the same levels of simplicity. But for me, I think that the head always refers to that rational mind. And if you think of kind of art and science in terms of like head and heart, that head is all about rational. It's all about kind of processing information, making decisions, controlling actions. And I think that's where that process comes from, the scientific nature of the kind of plethora of data that we have available. But the one thing I always say about data is just numbers until it becomes a story. Data is irrelevant until it becomes a story. Anybody can look at a spreadsheet, but you have to be able to articulate that and build a narrative and actually find the story or the trends out of the data. But again, that's where you blend that perfect combination of something like AI to be able to help surface some of the key information, and to be able to then pull in the experience or the past campaign history that you have as an individual with that knowledge, so you can spot. We've done this before, and I've seen the same level of trends in terms of either increase in traffic or whatever the metrics may be. So yeah, for me, it's art and science. It's the head and the heart. People are still making decisions based on the heart. It's the heart is the emotional center. It's about we talked about kind of people buy from people, and ultimately emotional connections. It comes from the heart, and therefore, as much data and trends and science, and as much as AI can support that, there's still going to be an element and an art form in marketing, which is, how do you connect on a level with your customers? How do you connect on that emotional level and build that connection to your brand, your service, your product with prospects, so that they actually get excited about something? Because it's data is it's very difficult to get excited about. That true form of emotional excitement where you got those kind of goosebumps and you've got that excitement that just kind of, you can't wait to get involved in something. I think that will always play a part in how successful marketing will be perceived, is can you drive that emotional connection, but also understanding those rational decisions that are being made, especially in B2B, which is going to come down to ROI. It's going to be down to proving value, which means that you have to deliver some form of marketing as a science so that there is that rational mind and that emotional connection, I think.
I think you make a really good point, Ian. I think a lot of companies, certainly from what I've seen within the B2B sector, are investing in brand quite early on. Whereas traditionally, a company would get to a certain size and then it thinks a little bit more about its brand and mission, all that kind of stuff. You're seeing more startups who are perhaps maybe even sort of trailblazing a bit, disrupting industries, building new categories, actually focusing on that brand piece first and then the other bits after that. So certainly it's going to be hard for AI to replicate that.
But I think that the technology and AI plays a major part in that, because before, the speed of technological advancement or the ability of product teams to create differentiation features or to build those USPs that we always hear about in marketing, you could probably have that competitive advantage for 6, 12 months potentially before your competition caught up. Now, in terms of how quick it is to deploy technology, how quick it is to build technology, there's very little scope to have a true USP that isn't either replicated or beaten within a matter of weeks and months. And I think that the competitive landscaping as well, is the introduction, as you said, around startups coming to the market, being able to try and disrupt existing players. The share of voice and the noise that's in the market around certain areas, there is no longer kind of individual businesses or companies that can really own a space and kind of defend from because the technological advances allow startups to compete with bigger companies that maybe have an engineering team of multiple hundreds and thousands of people. A small startup with the advancements of AI and the ability to write code quicker could actually produce a product of equal or better quality very, very quickly. So that's why I think that, as I say, from a marketing point of view, investing in brand is a way and probably the clear way that you can actually create some form of differentiation. Because before it was, our product has this, it's fantastic, it's new to the market, we've got 6 months of runway to really leverage that product, capture that awareness and drive that market share. Whereas now, as I say, we can release something and then 2 days, a week later, similar to AI, it's like at SALESmanago, we were very early on, we were the first customer engagement platform to actually deploy ChatGPT through our product. But within a matter of days, other products started surfacing on the market. So I say we were first to market, but it was a matter of days versus maybe 10 years ago, if we would have been able to get an early start on that technology, we maybe would have had that competitive advantage for 6, 12 months before other businesses could catch up. So I think that, just to close on that. So I think that investing in brand to really try and separate that competitive advantage. So what does your value proposition, how does that connect emotionally? And how do you capture awareness? And how do you cut through that noise in more of a kind of value-driven messaging rather than the feature-driven messaging, which, as I say, is just limited on the ability to kind of create USPs nowadays.
And do you think sort of investing in brand is a tougher sell in the boardroom then?
Oh, of course. This is the age-old marketing problem of. I even had it quoted to me by my CFO the other day. It's like 50% of marketing is marketing, 50% of marketing is not. We just don't know which 50%. And I think brand marketing is always going to be a harder sell. There's a lot of obviously businesses that are starting to realize and understand that the investment plays significant value in terms of that differentiation. I think the challenge with brand building and the investment that brand building takes is that it's not an overnight success. There's very few, I could probably count on one hand, brand activities that have actually had significant revenue driving implications within a matter of weeks and months. It's a hard thing to build. It takes time, and to really kind of deploy that connection from a brand, we're talking quarters rather than weeks. And I think obviously in the economic situation we're in and the competitive environments that we're in, everyone is still focused on that short-term revenue growth.
Yeah, makes sense. So if we go back to AI then, I mean, what do you think marketers could be doing right now then? Or how do you think they could be using AI in their jobs today?
Yeah, I mean, I look back and just think, wow, if I had this 20 years ago, it would have been amazing. But I think, as I say, marketeers are just so lucky that, as I say, I used to spend days thinking about one of my first jobs. It was very heavy email marketing. I used to spend days writing copy and editing copy and working out subject lines. With our kind of email design studio at SALESmanago, it's literally provides best-in-class subject line testing. AI can actually create content. It can then drill down that content into bullet points. And therefore, I think content creation, that personalization, creating both vast quantities of content in terms of blogs, ebooks, and things like that, but also being able to really pull out the kind of articulation of that content in a really specific way in things like emails, like what's going to grab attention. We all know that, as I say, most people open rates and click-through rates of emails are actually growing. But I think as we continue to improve that personalization and that ability to, okay, this is the message we're trying to deliver. What is the subject line that we'll learn in the background about that's going to drive the highest opens? And like I said, I think that's a huge advantage from I see when I was doing that role. So I'd say content creation, personalization, being able to distill information into kind of the most engaging and articulated in the most impactful way. I think creative is another thing. We're doing a lot of work again on our email design studio in terms of generative AI building creative for us, and being kind of, we actually were in our leadership meeting the other week, and we were just playing with it. We're just like, we need a picture of a Dutch gentleman eating mushroom soup, and it was amazing. I'm not being stereotypical, but the guy looked kind of Dutch, and he was eating mushroom soup, and it just came in a matter of seconds, and we played around with that. And to be able to have that ability as a marketeer to take that creativity, because again, all AI needs input. So you need some form of prompt, you need some form of idea, but that idea can be realized so quickly. I'd imagine going to my kind of design team being like, yeah, with the same request, and it'd probably take 3 or 4 iterations to come up with what was in my head. But it speeds things up. So I think, yeah, creative campaigns. I think also the ideas, it can really help suggesting unique angles, creative concepts, fresh approaches. I've used a prompt which is kind of show me something that's never been done before. And it came up with a reasonably unique solution. So I think, yeah, content creation, design creation, the ideation stage, and just being able to bounce ideas off really quickly and generate those fresh ideas. I think the other couple is around optimization. So both in terms of advertising campaigns, performance marketing, to be able to kind of understand consumer behavior, understand trends, and being able to kind of pull all of that out into the optimization of your ads. And then lastly, from a research point of view, being able to generate the amount of, we've gone from reading an encyclopedia to reading Wikipedia to now just asking for something to be boom. It just comes, and you can actually say, I only want to read 5 lines or 2 bullet points. So you can actually do your research in such a streamlined way. It's just moving things forward at such pace. So yeah, I would say they're the key things for me: creative ideas, content creation, customer insights, being able to understand your audience better, ad optimization, and obviously there's many more. But I think this is the kind of the fundamentals that we're already seeing in marketing now. One of the important things for me is, as I say, teaching people to use it correctly. And as I say, I'm still learning, but I try and kind of block out some time each week to just test different things, ask it different things, read a few articles around different prompts that have worked. So we're just in a really exciting discovery phase around how this can really be powerful.
Well, you touch on a good point there around the teaching then. I mean, do you think AI is going to help develop the next marketeers, the next marketing leaders then?
I think it will. And like I say, there's been a lot of debate and discussion around, is AI going to take people's jobs? I don't claim this quote, but I remember reading somewhere that AI won't take people's jobs. People that use AI will. And I thought that just really resonated for me, because obviously there are some industries that could be done purely with an AI function. But I strongly believe that the combination of human intelligence with artificial intelligence, that should be the kicker. That should be the thing that drives even more performance. So in terms of developing, again, we have to learn this as an industry. We have to learn this as leaders, and we have to understand how the future generation of marketeers can really adopt AI in the best way. Because the last thing we want to do, and again, I don't want to create, or I would hate to see this kind of army of clones that all have the same CV, that all have the same, like if you ask for, oh, I'd like to do a task as part of this interview, can you write me a blog, or can you show me how you'd structure a campaign this way? And then all 5 candidates come back with the exact same thing because they just posted it into ChatGPT and it came back with the same answer. So that's, again, I think we can develop the future of marketing, because you can learn quickly. You can use it to improve and optimize your existing ideas. But as I say, I'm hesitant or concerned that it could be seen as an easy way to just get to a certain level. Whereas I don't want to see that the future marketeers all just have a single brain or a single view of the world, which is developed by AI.
Yeah, well, I think writers are probably the most worried about AI, aren't they? So, and certainly if you're writing fairly low-level SEO content, then I'm sure you should be worried, because it's pretty impressive at what it can sort of churn out in terms of a sort of a fairly well SEO optimized blog. But certainly from my experience, for the sort of quality B2B content marketers, they're using it, like you said, as a sort of ideation tool. You know, maybe they might be stuck on an angle or stuck on an idea, and it's just part of the research phase alongside other areas that they're going to look to build a picture of, okay, well, this is how I'm going to construct my my article. So, you know, I think the best content marketers and the best copywriters will not be replaced, because well, right now they won't be replaced. Don't quote me on that, but it's just not good enough, is it? So but yeah, certainly the ideation phase.
Yeah, and I think that there's definitely ways I've seen it used in terms of create some content in the style of this brand or in the style of this person, which again I think is a really unique use case that you can actually start understanding. Okay, well, who is the audience? And ultimately marketing comes back to, especially content writing, who is the audience? What is the message you're trying to convey? And what's the best way to get that to resonate with the target audience? But I think if you utilize those prompts, as I say, you should be able to construct something in a style that, whether somebody is, I don't know, posted on social media. So if you're targeting, especially in B2B, if you're targeting with an ABM approach, we're talking to this company, or we're talking to this persona or this individual person at this company, and you can take something like their social posts or what they post on LinkedIn. It's human psychology that if you can then communicate to them in a similar style of language, so there might be certain terminologies or phrases that they use. It's, as I say, I'm not an expert in human psychology by any means, but I think that it's natural to kind of go towards writing in a style that you understand. And I think that's a great way to just help build some of that personal or kind of focus connection with the target audience. And as I say, it's the way you use AI. And I'm sure that it's going to be developed, so press button, marketing campaign done. But I still think the most clever marketeers using it can use it to their advantage, that add the additional value, because at the moment it still requires prompts and inputs. And so if you just expect it to output the most impactful creative or content or whatever it may be, it comes down to the input that you ask it for. And therefore I think the learning, especially for marketeers and especially for, as I say, developing that future leadership of marketing, is can we encourage creativity of the use of AI, if that makes sense.
It does. It does. So switching things slightly, and I think a lot of companies are thinking about this, certainly in the sort of tech space, is how can we utilize AI? But I appreciate that your business sort of uses AI as part of its solution. So, how are you utilizing sort of AI to help solve some of the problems of your customers then?
Yeah, so SALESmanago is a customer engagement platform. So what is a customer engagement platform? Essentially, it's a CDP, or a customer data platform. We have our customer data platform driven by zero-party data. We all know about the challenges of third-party or cookie data. So our CDP is driven by zero-party data. But the unique or kind of important aspect to our customer engagement platform is we connect that customer data platform to a natively built omni-channel execution solution. So it's know your customers, build customer intimacy, and then deploy precision execution to your customer base, leveraging the insights that you have from customer data platforms. So part of our omni-channel execution solution I talked about earlier is our email design studio, and as I say, it blows me away the fact that I used to send millions and thousands of emails, and the ability to really create that personalized experience with AI. So we have generative AI, both in terms of the subject line, in terms of distilling content into bullet points. We have DALL-E integration in terms of, as I say, the kind of images and image creation. And like I say, we also have loads of testing solutions within the AI to kind of understand which subject lines are going to get the most opens. So we're looking at that, but we're essentially looking at how does AI sit across the whole experience of our omnichannel execution. So live chat, website personalization, website merchandising. We're building in AI, or what we call our co-pilot, to really support a marketeer's decisions. So we market and sell to marketeers of e-commerce businesses, and therefore we know marketeers are excited about AI, and therefore we're trying to ensure that the solutions that we provide take the best that AI can deliver to basically help the marketeer be better. And therefore, I think that's a critical part of our platform. And we're, as I say, we're developing some other aspects to our product off the back of the success with Email Design Studio and leveraging AI across our entire platform. But in terms of business, how else we can use it? As I say, from a marketing point of view, we're actively using it in terms of our content creation, in terms of our ad optimization, in terms of our productivity of research, and trying to ensure that we understand the market, the changes, both in terms of e-commerce, but in terms of the MarTech space. And we're also looking at it across all functions of the business. Our legal teams are looking at it. Our finance teams are looking at it. Customer success is looking at it as well. Just, as I say, more to speed up the process rather than to take away the human interaction that we pride ourselves on in terms of our customer success. But as I say, our product is core, and as I say, our product is there to deliver the best experience for other marketeers. But as a business, we're looking at all forms of ways that we can really increase productivity and leverage the intelligence of AI into how do we do certain tasks and how do we do certain parts of the business to really optimize and improve.
And what about you as a person then, as a sort of senior leader within the B2B tech space? How has it impacted your approach to perhaps different situations? Do you feel it's complementing your existing plans, or has it sort of completely changed things in the last few months?
It's definitely been a roller coaster. I think we're still at the early stage of really understanding the power and the capabilities of AI. So I think as a senior marketing leader, both in the business and obviously from a wider point of view, I need to stay up to date, and I need to be able to test and learn and understand the capabilities myself before even how do we deploy this within the business. So yeah, it's a constant learning curve of everything happening, which is fantastic. As I say, it's keeping me on my toes. But I mean, outside of work, it's even got to the stage where myself, my wife are using it in terms of what to do on a rainy day in the place I live with two kids, and it kind of spits out different ideas. We're off on holiday next week for half term, and we just kind of put in the place that we're going to, which are the best restaurants that we should visit. So again, I think it's changing, not just in terms of how a marketeer works and how B2B marketing function can operate. It's also changing human expectations, as I say. So it's being leveraged not just from a marketing or a business technology, but it's changing the way the whole world operates. And I think that then it becomes a level of expectation that if I'm using this in my private life, I need to be using this in my professional life. And I think that's why we've seen so many companies rush to adopt it, because this is not a technology. There's been obviously huge amounts of marketing technology in terms of, I don't know, demand intent or intent topics and things like that, which is fantastic from a B2B marketing point of view. Am I using it outside of work, or has it had any form of impact on the wider world? No, but it's fantastic from B2B marketing. But AI is just a complete game changer, because, as I say, it's suggesting me restaurants, it's giving me recipes, it's telling me where to take my kids at the weekend, it's helping me plan the itinerary for my holiday. And I think that once it becomes the norm, the expectation, then especially from a B2B point of view, I need to be using this. I see the power, so I need to be using this in my day-to-day, and from my marketing mind, I need to be deploying this. And that's why, as I say, from SALESmanago point of view, it was critical, and it's such a priority for us because it has such an ability to impact a marketeer's life and productivity, and that's why it's front and center for us.
Superb, super interesting chat. So, final question, switching things up a little bit, but when you're hiring, and I know you've sort of built a team recently, but when you're hiring B2B marketers, what are the traits, skills, attributes that you look for?
Yeah, it's a great question. So, again, this is, I'll go back to AI. So I always used to say to people, I can teach people skills, but I can't teach people motivation. Now I don't even need to teach people skills because AI can do that for me. But in all seriousness, what I look for, especially in junior or kind of early stage marketeers, is just the hunger and the attitude to be successful. As I say, everything is changing so quickly. Is an expert that was an expert yesterday is not an expert anymore unless they're staying up to date. So if you purely just look at skills, CV, what have you done before, and you expect that person to be able to replicate that success that they've maybe had in the previous business in the same way, it doesn't necessarily happen the same way as it did 10 years ago, because it's not kind of copy and paste, because, as I say, the world has evolved. So what you need to find is those people that are hungry, people that are driven, people that have the motivation to learn. Because, as I say, the world's changing and marketing is changing so much that if you stand still, you're already behind the curve. So for me, I always just look for that energy from people. For me, it's really important to have that drive, motivation, accountability, and just want to have an impact. Like impact and accountability are the two words I kind of put at the top when I kind of write my kind of post-interview notes. Is somebody going to take accountability? They might not always know the answer, but are they taking that accountability to go and find the answer, or to at least try and have that kind of drive and attitude that I don't know it yet, but I'm going to try and find out how to do it, and I'm going to at least give it a go. So yeah, motivation, attitude, drive, and just a desire to have an impact. I mean, marketing's hard. B2B marketing is hard. There's a lot of knockdowns. You have tough weeks. And I think it's very easy to lose motivation in certain times. So having that resilience to be able to just motivate yourself to be successful and to have an impact, individually want to contribute. I think that's what I look for.
Yeah, resilience is a really good one. Well, it's been fascinating to talk to you, Ian. It's great to talk to somebody who's adopting AI, who's worked for a company that's using AI. So it's going to be very interesting for us both to listen back to this in a couple of years' time, and let's just see where we're all at. So thank you very much for sharing your time and knowledge.
Absolute pleasure. Thanks, Matt.